Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. DraftKings Week 16 has presented us with a Saturday slate, and on that Saturday slate, the late game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams is a good showdown slate. It's the biggest showdown slate that they have on the slate. This one is they'd have a showdown game for every single one of the three games, but the 400K tournament, the big tournament with $100,000 to first on DraftKings, is for this San Francisco Los Angeles Rams conference matchup. Second time that these two teams have faced one another. The first time San Francisco took it down with a 20-7 win. Things can change in a conference. They played each other a long time ago. It's been a couple of months. The Rams are not exactly the same team that they were offensively at that point in the season. And San Francisco defensively has not been performing the same way that they had been performing those first 5-6 weeks of the season. So we have ourselves a pretty good game for this slate. The best game would be the early game between Tampa Bay and Houston from a showdown perspective, but this is the game that we have to work with, and this is the one that we're going to break down on this video. So thank you guys for showing up once again. If you would be so kind as to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notifications bell. Those three things really are the lifeblood of any YouTube channel. I appreciate you guys coming in, clicking the videos, and clicking all the buttons every single week. I do appreciate you guys like multiple times a week coming in here to check out all the videos and click the things. Also, I record all these videos live on stream on twitch.tv. There's a link in the pinned comment down below. We are on the road to 10,000 followers on Twitch. I've been streaming for about 2.5 years now, and that's where all these videos come from. Would love to get to meet you. The easiest way is to come drop by the stream. I stream 6 days a week during NFL season. Go drop a follow on that channel. Costs you absolutely nothing to follow. And you can help me get to 10,000 followers on Twitch if you just give me those extra couple of clicks. I would greatly appreciate it. But let's get right to this slate. Highest priced player on the slate is Jared Goff. First time they played, he was a poop emoji. Sorry, Jared. That's about the analysis that we're looking at. Completed 13 of 24 for 78 yards and a whole 2.12 DraftKings points. Gonna need him to move that decimal point over 1 and maybe get to 21 points for him to be viable at this salary. Especially if you're planning to plug him into the captain spot. The two highest projected players on this slate from a raw projection, a medium projection point of view, are both Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo. I personally prefer Garoppolo to Goff. There is 100% risk when you play Garoppolo at quarterback because there's a massive gap between his acceptable floor, which we've seen 2 of the last 4 weeks with 12 and 10 points against Atlanta and against Baltimore, and his very reachable and accessible ceiling of 3 and 4 touchdown passes, which we've seen multiple times this year, resulting in 30 points 3 times, different times this year. So he does have ceiling capabilities, as Shanahan is a very good play caller and very good at scheming his players open, and will try to find out what players and what teams are going to give him and then set things up as the game goes along to try and take shots deep, or to counterattack. Where they vacate, he fills. And if the Rams are able, with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, to take specific things away, they're going to try and maybe get things done through the air. And if they do, having Jimmy Garoppolo as that quarterback is fine for me in your captain spot. Now, realize that if you're playing quarterbacks and captain, a quarterback and captain can most certainly win a showdown slate, but they've won about 11 or 12% in total of all the showdown slates in the history of ever as a captain. So for me, when I'm building groups on dailyroto.com, which is a lineup builder and the projection set that I use, there's a link down below if you want to click show more in the description, take you over there and get 10% off at checkout, or just use promo code SMIZLIFE at checkout, get you that same 10% off of a new membership. If I'm using him, I'm building groups. So if I'm using Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, the first thing I'm going to do is build 2 different groups. Those 2 groups are going to be filled with all of the pass catchers on San Francisco. So Emmanuel Sanders, Debo. I'm going to throw the kicker in there because kicker correlates better with a quarterback than people are willing to admit. If the quarterback's having a big day, if this offense scores 30 real life points, that's 2 field goals, 3 extra points. That correlates well. If they're moving the ball, they're getting into the red zone. Every time they score a touchdown, that's 1 more point for the kicker. Correlates better than people are willing to admit, or at least are willing to accept. Probably not going to use check or any of the running backs in that pass catching group. If you want to come down to other people, fine, but I'm not seeing very much use out of the players lower. I'm going to make sure that every one of my Garoppolo and captain's lineups with his pass catcher group is going to have at least 2 of all the pass catchers in every single, or pass catcher and kicker group, of all the guys that are in that group, at least 2 in every single Garoppolo at captain lineup. It's a tongue twister. The second group that I'm going to build is going to include every single viable Rams player, including running backs. Probably not going to include kickers. Definitely going to include tight ends and anybody else that you feel between Cooks or Reynolds or Brown or Henderson. These guys probably aren't as viable down here. Munt. Just like saying his name. Johnny Munt. Sounds like a character in a 1920s gangster movie, right? Sounds like a hitman for like the mob in like the Al Capone days. Get Johnny Munt on the phone. He'll take care of it for you. Anyway, I'm going to make sure that every Jimmy Garoppolo at captain lineup with this Rams group includes at least 1 of all the players from this group. They're probably going to be San Francisco centric because of that. Going to do the same thing with Jared Goff. Going to build a Jared Goff at captain lineup. If you're going to do that, you're going to build a group. Have the lineup builder build you a lineup with every single one of his pass catchers. Not going to include Gurley in the group, but I'm not going to exclude Gurley from Goff at captain lineups. I'm just not going to force it to use at least 2 of them. Going to include Higbee in that group, Cooks, Reynolds, the kicker, Zerline as well. And make sure that it uses at least 2 of those guys. And then going to build that same bring back group with all the San Francisco players to make sure, including Garoppolo, including Kittle, Mostert, this, that. Now, as I've said, the quarterbacks don't typically lead to the most opportunities at winning at captain. So the most viable captains to me that aren't the 2 quarterbacks, who definitely have the highest median projection, but not the highest ceiling projection, because a ceiling for somebody like George Kittle is at that same range that Garoppolo's been, right, this season. Even on a game like this, he did not have multiple touchdowns. He has multiple touchdowns here. You're talking about a 40 to a 45 point DraftKings day. That's much higher than most quarterbacks can get. A 40 point day for a quarterback is extremely, extremely, extremely rare. As great a season as Lamar Jackson is having in 2019, he does not have 1 40 point day at quarterback on DraftKings. So 40 point days are very hard to come by for quarterbacks. They are a little bit more common for position players. We saw one from Julio Jones this week. We saw one from multiple players the week before. 40-point days happen way more often for position players than for quarterbacks. Quarterback scoring is very clustered, usually between 18 and 30 points. And the highest performing players at positions, running back, wide receiver, tight end, can get up to 35, 40 points. So more captains won with that player that has the multiple touchdown game and 100-yard bonus. George Kittle in that group for me of players that can get that done most often. Raheem Mostert, because of his increased usage in the red zone and inside the 5-yard line. 15 plus touches projected once again for me for Mostert this week. And maybe he can get off a little bit more than he did against Atlanta last week. And somebody else that has had a great run here recently is Robert Woods, and at captain is only 12.3 on this showdown slate. Aside from this game against Dallas, where he still saw 9 targets but only got 4 receptions for 17 yards, the last few games he's been tremendous. And with the savings that you have by going with him at captain, you know, the extra 2,000 you're saving there, or Higbee, same situation if Everett's out again, with 3 straight games getting over 100 yards receiving, only 1 touchdown in those 3 games, and he's lived between 20 and 26.5 DraftKings points. You put that at captain, multiply that by 1.5, all of a sudden, with the savings that you get, you can afford a lot more. Now, how are we going to build groups with them? Every single pass catcher that I put into the captain spot is going to build a group, and it's going to be a very simple group. So if I've got George Kittle at captain, I'm building a group that says include exactly 1 Jimmy Garoppolo in that group. If I'm building a group with Robert Woods at captain, I'm going to make sure that the lineup builder builds every lineup that has Robert Woods in it is also going to have Jared Goff, exactly one Jared Goff in those lineups as well. The team totals in this game, obviously San Francisco favored by about 6.5. They have a team total of about 25. They're expected to score more points. The majority of your lineups, whether you're using a lineup builder or whether you're building them by hand, are probably going to include more 49ers position players than Rams position players. The Rams players are fighting for more targets, are fighting for more usage. A couple of the players that I think are solid value plays on this slate in an if-then sort of a situation. As we look down to the cheaper players, Zerline, got that Q by his name, dealing with a muscle strain is like questionable for Saturday's game. If he's not in, then obviously we're going to have to make a decision because there's no other kicker for the Rams out here on this slate. I don't think DraftKings is going to add a kicker to this slate, so you're going to have to deal without the Rams kicker if he does miss this game. Reynolds is somebody who has seen some targets in games at least and is only 1,400 as a flex play. Solid, viable value play there. Kendrick Bourne has been up and down, but has seen at least the field and some targets at 2,400, including a 2-touchdown day against New Orleans in week 14. Not going to look for Henderson for value. Robbie Gould, if you're looking to save with 4K, with somebody that you know is going to have points, but not really the same ceiling as a position player, right? There's very few paths to a kicker getting 20 plus DraftKings points, but Robbie Gould being the only kicker on this slate will probably carry more ownership if Zerline is out than a normal kicker would on this slate. And speaking of kickers and defense, the other group that I tend to build is a kicker defense group where I'm only going to allow most days one of any one of this quad to be in any one lineup. What I have done more recently in my group building for these has been to allow 2, but limit. So I'll build multiple groups that say, I'm going to build this first group that says, of these 4 players, I want to include a max at most 2 of these players. And then I'll build a secondary group that says, if a lineup has 49ers defense, do not include the Rams defense. I'll build another group that says, if it has the 49ers defense, allow max of 1 Robbie Gould or do not allow Greg Zerline, because I don't want to I want to have a different cluster or a different correlated group of the kicker and the defense, as opposed to just, well, I have the 49ers kicker and I have the Rams defense. So I try and build multiple groups for the kickers and defense now, allowing a max of 2, but making sure that they're correlated specifically in the lineups that I'm building through the 150 that I throw out there for Showdown lineups or Showdown slates that I end up playing. That's going to do it for this Saturday special Showdown slate. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. I appreciate y'all. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure you ring that notifications bell, and I've got some real exciting news coming very soon. People are wondering what I'm going to do after football season ends. We'll break that news for you next week. But until then, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.
He's a legend.